Adding reflections to elements in your scene and going further with refractions is something comp artists have skillfully found all kinds of different solutions to. Nuke's classic ray render allowed for a limited use case of this, where you could only have one reflected bounce, and this would often lead to black gaps in your renders or slightly unrealistic reflections. With the re-architecture to Scanline Render 2 and the new reflection surface node, you can now render multiple ray bounces to generate much more complex and realistic reflections and refractions. So in this example, what we're doing is adding a reflective element to the visor. This is our task for the composite. And let's take a look at how we can break that down. So we have our plate, and then the tracking is done in the 3D system. And for the visor, we have is a geo card, and using the deformation handles under the deform tab to bend it into shape that's going to match the visor itself. And for the material, using reflection material. So in this case, we're able to tweak the properties like the Fresnel bias as well as the IOR to suit it creatively. And then also just driving the reflection with two constants and a roto. Really want it to show up in the center and then fall off. So we're able to do those 2D workflows and then use it in the shader as our reflection input. Now, when we're lighting the scene, have an environment light as well as an HDRI plugged into that. So when we combine them into a geoscene, we end up with this. And then we look through our render. We have our tracked camera as our camera source. And now we're getting our render. So you can see where those constants are coming into play. We're really pushing in the reflection in the center. And then we're able to go in and tweak further. If we want to tweak the Fresnel, you can do so and push it a bit further, as well as the IOR. And of course, any other properties. So from there, we're just doing some tricks to integrate it a bit more, eating away at the mat, grading it, and then placing it on top with a screen functionality. So now we have a tracked reflection that is going along for the ride with the shot. And then another quick thing is there is this HUD that we're just plugging directly into the material input for the geo card, as I just want to get a straight render of it, and then using that same visor and putting it into place, and then we're compositing on top. So very quickly, we're able to build up a reflection directly inside of the new 3D system. Screen replacements are an everyday comp task, and adding reflective elements on top to help better integrate the graphics that are placed on the screen are much more effective with Scanline Render 2. So in this case, we have our plate, and we know the areas that we're going to be placing the screens onto. And in this case, these are the graphics that we are using for the screen. We've tracked the camera, and then we are placing the cards and also adding the texture of those screens in place. So now we have something that we can go ahead and render out and then place on top. But there's not integrated very well overall, as we're missing that overall reflection that's needed. So in this case, we're grabbing those exact same cards, but we're applying a different material to it. We're applying a reflection material to those cards. And from here, we can go in and again, tweak any properties that are necessary that are going to look correct. And then we are lighting the scene with an HDRI so we can gather all that reflection. So from here, we can go and render out. And the nice thing about this, right, is because camera is moving through frame, you can see what's happening is we're getting more revealed or less revealed from the reflection. So a proper reflection that's going to be moving with the camera. And then we can begin to integrate on top of our screen. So at this point, we can go in and dial a bit more, less, to whatever makes the most sense. And then the last screen is separated down here, which really helps tie everything together. And now we have the proper reflection that's going to move throughout that camera track. Creating reflections and refractions for complex scenes can now be simplified with some comp efficiencies. Here we have a ship in a glass bottle, and we have a fill shader because we want to hold out the base, and then we have the reflection surface material on the glass, the inner glass and the outer glass. We are gathering reflections through the environment light and an HDRI, and then we are merging them in with a geoscene node. Now, instead of rendering the entire mesh for the ship, we have it placed on a card, so it's a pre-render of it along with the water mesh. So from there, we can simply just plug in and render, and we're able to gain a lot of speed, especially if you're something like refraction, which requires a heavy computational pull. So this is an simple example, but cheats like this are what can drastically reduce render times when you're doing these heavy calculations and still provide convincing results. We always want to provide multiple ways to solve a problem depending on the needs and the time scale.